Hey, Katie. We have the Whispering Statue. We are on Chapter 10, A Near Discovery. Nancy and Ned moved toward the statue quietly, as if their presence might disturb it. The whispered sounds continued. Finally, the couple reached the marble figure and stood listening. A moment later, broad smiles spread over their faces. The sounds were not coming from the statue. In fact, it was not whispering at all. On the other side of the figure, a couple sat on the ground, their backs against the sculpture. A young man was saying, "You must marry me. Life is nothing without you." A girl's trembling voice answered, "I can't. Maybe a year from now when I graduate from college." Chagrined, Nancy and Ned tiptoed away and returned to the yacht club. So they're kind of like feeling a little bit embarrassed that it wasn't actually whispering. They had a good laugh, and Ned remarked, "I wonder how that romance will turn out." "I guess we'll never know," Nancy replied. "I didn't recognize the voices, so they must be a couple who just came here for the day." The thought of the statue whispering stayed in Nancy's mind. The following morning after church, she and Ned strolled once more to the front of the club to look at the marble lady. A strong wind had come up, so Nancy took a scarf from her pocket and tied it over her wig. As they neared the statue, Nancy exclaimed, "Listen!" The two stood still. This time, Nancy was not wrong. There were murmuring sounds coming from the marble figure. The two stood. This is remarkable," Ned exclaimed. "The statue didn't make a sound last night. What do you attribute this to?" "Two things," Nancy replied. "The wind, for one. And as you know, I suspect this is a reproduction. I believe the person who made it came here very late last night and did something so that when the wind blows, the statue will make a whispering sound." "But why should he bother to do that?" Ned questioned. "Nancy said whoever did it hoped to allay any suspicions that the statue was a reproduction. So they're trying to make people less suspicious that the statue's fake." "I'd like to get George and the others to hear this," she said. "I'll get them," Ned offered. "You stay here and see what the young lady has to say." During his absence, the wind died down completely. No sounds came from the statue, but just as the others arrived, the wind suddenly began to blow hard again. Bess put her ear close to the statue. "I can't believe it," she said. George admitted that there were sounds all right, but she could not distinguish any words. "Don't tell me, Bess, that you can make anything out of it." A slightly frightened look crossed Bess's face. She said, "It sounded as if the statue were murmuring the words, 'Go home, go home.'" Dave shook his head. "You certainly have a great imagination, Bess." Nancy examined the statue, but could not discover anything different about it. The three boys looked at their watches and said they must leave directly after dinner. "We'd better eat now," Bert suggested. The young people went into the club. Nancy stopped to tell Mr. Ayer about their discovery, but learned he had gone out to dinner. While they were eating, Dave said, "Girls, this has been a really groovy weekend. Invite us down again if you need some male help." "You bet," George replied. "But I have a hunch Nancy's going to solve this mystery within a few days." "And would that mean you'd go back to River Heights?" Dave asked. "I'm afraid so," Nancy replied. During the afternoon it rained hard and the girls were forced to stay indoors. By the next morning the weather had cleared. Before Nancy left for work, she dropped into Mr. Ayer's office. "Guess what?" she said. "The statue is whispering." "You're joking!" "It's true, but only when the wind blows." "I'll go out and listen. By the way, the books Ned ordered arrived a few minutes ago. I thought you'd want to know." "Yes, thank you. Shall I get in touch with Mrs. Merriam, or will you?" "The manager said he would do it." "Perhaps by the time you get back here, I'll have some news for you." There were many customers during the morning at the art and bookshop, and Nancy was kept very busy. At one point the thought went through her mind, "Mr. Basswood has a wonderful business. He doesn't have to be dishonest. Why should he do anything underhanded?" Mr. Basswood did little of the selling. He remained in his office, always keeping the door locked. Each time Nancy went to see him, she knocked and he unlocked it. He never let her inside and did not open the door far enough for her to even get a peek at the interior. "He's certainly very secretive and peculiar," she decided. After she had made her 10th sale of the morning, he gave her a smile and said, "Miss Lynbrook, you are doing a very good job." Whenever she appeared at the office, he would give her change from his pocket. She was surprised that he carried such a large amount of cash. As Nancy was mulling this over near the book department, she saw a couple come in. "Oh!" she thought in dismay, "they're Mr. and Mrs. Thompson from River Heights, and they know me well." While she was debating where she might hide, Mr. Thompson signed the register for the two of them. Nancy decided that she just had time to hurry to the powder room and hide there until the couple left. But her hopes were dashed when Mrs. Thompson turned in that direction. Her husband came the other way, toward Nancy. Desperate, she jumped behind a life-size bronze statue of a sailor. As the man moved, she tiptoed around it. All this time, she kept one eye out for Mrs. Thompson. Minutes later, the woman came into the room and walked toward her husband. Nancy wondered what to do. She could not hide from both of them. Could she depend on her disguise not to be recognized? In a panic, she turned her back on the couple. "Oh, miss, will you help us?" Mr. Thompson called out. Instead of replying, Nancy quickly pulled a pad and pencil from her pocket and wrote, "I'm here incognito," so she's here in disguise, so no one knows who she is. "Please don't identify me, and put this note in your pocket." She planned to take the Thompsons into her confidence and hoped they would not unwittingly reveal who she was. Surreptitiously, kind of sneaky, Nancy put her hand backward around the side of the statue and the note was taken. There was silence for a couple of moments. Feeling it was safe now to face the Thompsons, Nancy walked toward them. She held back the two sides of the long hair which partially covered her face. Recognizing her, Mr. Thompson gave the pretty detective a big wink and his wife smiled broadly. They did not call her by name. Mr. Thompson said he wanted to look over the rare books. His wife was interested in purchasing a statuette. A few minutes later, when neither the owner nor his assistant was around, Mr. Thompson whispered to Nancy, "Are you on another mystery adventure?" "Yes, someday I'll tell you all about it." She sold the Thompsons 2 books and a statuette, wrote the sales check, and took the money to Mr. Basswood's office. She knocked on the door, but there was no answer. "He must have gone out," she decided. "I wonder where Mr. Atkin is." The assistant was not in sight. Since he always stood near the front door when anyone was in the shop, Nancy was puzzled. She called his name, but there was no answer. Nancy walked into the rear room, but he was not in it. "I must leave this money someplace," she thought. Once more, Nancy knocked on the office door. When there was still no response, she tried the knob. To her surprise, the door was unlocked. She opened it wide and walked in. Then she gasped. Mr. Atkin was slumped over a desk. Uh-oh, I'll have to find out. He's okay. We'll find out.